Now, water companies have been accused of failing to monitor sewage discharges at many popular British seaside resorts this summer. Data analysis showing that a quarter of sewage discharges going unchecked last year as a result of a lack of monitors or faulty systems. Many devices not even been installed or didn't work, quote, 90% of the time. And we're joined now by Imogen Napper, who's a postgraduate researcher in marine pollution at the University of Plymouth. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, we were hearing about the discharges last week during the thunderstorms, which I understand is actually legally allowed. But this particular problem, where they've not even got the devices installed, yet again a question about the oversight of the water companies.
Exactly. It's something that's quite concerning, that this is our natural environment, somewhere that we want to go and enjoy and have our holidays there. And I've actually been, unfortunately, involved in this, where I was surfing last year and I was caught in a sewage slick. It was brown, frothy water all around us. It felt extremely dirty. And at the time, I didn't even realise that it was sewage.
And the issue is it's not just unpleasant and not very, should we say, fragrant. I mean, we've got real public health concerns here with E. coli, I gather with hepatitis and other issues. Could anything be done to take the water companies to task on a public health aspect?
It's a well-known thing, especially when you're swimming potentially in the ocean or in these areas, that if you are exposed to sewage slick, that you may unfortunately become unwell. And due to this, we have to start raising the concern louder and louder for this to be taken more seriously. So there needs to be greater infrastructure improvements, more investments and accountability to the water companies that are unfortunately making this happen.
Yeah, there was a case a few months ago where the Environment Agency actually managed to monitor what Southern Water were doing down in Sussex and Kent, and there was a £90 million fine. But the Environment Agency said that took a huge effort to get them to court. I mean, should there be more powers for the Environment Agency?
I think that there just needs to be more powers overall, and there needs to be a law making sure that this is not repeated. And it's not pointing the finger at any particular water company, but we know that the large majority that this could be happening to. So we now need to work together and as a team and as a whole planet to understand how we can try and make this better and monitor this more efficiently.
And very quickly, I mean, are we still the dirty man of Europe as far as this is concerned?
Are we the dirty man of Europe? I know that our oceans are wonderful, especially we're so lucky in the UK to have amazing coastlines. But we do know that they're being polluted, whether that by sewage or whether that by plastic. So now we have all of this information, the time is right to act.
Imogen, thank you very much indeed for joining us, a researcher in marine pollution. Let's just reflect that we've got Francis Hall still with us here in the studio, a barrister with us for the next couple of hours. And we were touching there, Francis, on the legal sort of powers. And the judge in this particular case against Southern Water reflected that there'd been efforts really to try and hide what they'd been doing. But even though he instituted a £90 million fine, that was about as far as he could go.
Yes, well, that's obviously a huge deterrence, and I noticed that he said it had been difficult or very difficult to bring that company to court, but that you expect. It's going to be a long process. But the knowledge, whether or not a law is needed, generally speaking, when one looks at these regulatory issues, it's actually ensuring that there is sufficient enforcement of the law that we currently have that can be the most effective way of getting that getting companies to comply with their statutory duties, because obviously this fine will be for a number of very, very serious breaches of public health and regulatory offences. Yeah,
because that's the issue, isn't it? It's not just the sorts of regulations, as you say. It is endangering public health. If you've got E. coli and hepatitis in the water and they knowingly are releasing it onto a public beach, especially at a time at the moment, you know, when the kids are on holiday and like to go into the sea.
Yes, I think you mentioned the storm flows, and in fact, one of the big problems is that because we were so advanced in our sewage systems and having it in the Victorian era, as with the tube system too in London, that has meant the problem with that is that we've now got very, very old sewage systems. So I think London, the Victorians, when they built the sewers, built it for a population twice the size. We've now increased that. Yeah. And in fact, I remember, because I lived in Sands End near one of the major places for the London super sewer. It was extremely difficult to do it because it was so controversial, and obviously nobody wanted it in their backyard. But that illustrates what the real problem is, because the real problem is until the sewers are repaired, which will cost tens of billions of pounds, apparently, this problem will recur. Yeah. So it's all very well to say water companies aren't doing enough, but during those points, they won't be able to do anything.
Well, in terms of legal balance, let's just reflect. We've actually got a statement from Southern Water, a spokesman telling us our storm overflow task force is already engaged on industry-leading initiatives, and political stakeholders will play a key role in driving the partnership working to implement the kind of interventions, whether nature-based or engineering, needed to cut our reliance on storm releases. That's just in, and make of that what you will.